Do you remember being a young child and feeling frustrated that you were unable to reach high up counters, shelves, and all other sorts of spaces? Well, as we grew older, we grew taller, and this became less and less of a problem for us. For other animals, such as birds, they have alternate strategies for accessing elevated spaces, and for them, this is using flight. For commercial laying hens, which are the birds that lay the eggs that we buy from the grocery store, being able to move up and down in their housing system is very important. And this is because a lot of these birds are living in what is called multi-tiered housing systems, where resources such as food, water, and nest boxes are distributed vertically in stacked elevated tiers. But these resources may be difficult for some hens to reach. In order for birds to fly, they need to have intact flight feathers, and flight feathers are the longest and outermost feathers present on the wing of a bird. Laying hens are very commonly missing feathers due to a behavior known as feather pecking. And feather pecking is when one hen will pick at and pull out the feathers of another. And as the behavior is repeated and more birds begin to participate in it, it can result in loss to large areas of the bird's feather cover, or in some cases, hens will be completely featherless. But what happens when a hen is missing her flight feathers? Is she still going to be able to go up and access resources stacked in those vertical tiers that I mentioned earlier? To date, there have been no studies investigating this, which brings us to our study. I spent 8 weeks recording the amount of time that laying hens spent accessing a food and nest box resource available to them on the ground and on elevated tiers. I wanted to understand how our laying hens spent their time accessing these resources before I applied any treatment to them to get a baseline measurement of resource usage. And what we found when we did this is that our hens spent most of their time at the nest box on the elevated tier rather than the one on the ground, and that they spent a rather even amount of time at both the ground and elevated feeder. After this, we randomly selected hens to receive the wing trimming treatment, where we trimmed the flight feathers on both wings, and this was a technique that we adapted from domestic bird handlers. After applying this treatment, what we saw was very dramatic. Birds who had had their wing feathers trimmed spent almost all of their time at the ground nest box and the ground feeder and barely made use of any elevated tier resources, which is very different from what we saw during our baseline measurement. For the birds who did not receive any treatment, they continued to make use of the resources as they had previously. And in finding these results, our research shows just how important intact flight feathers are for the ability of laying hens to move freely and to access resources that are on elevated tiers. And just as growing taller made things easier for us, I am hoping that my research and future research projects will make reaching high places easier for laying hens in the future. Thank you.